Hello everybody, it's the War, and I'm back with VLR. Well, not VLR precisely, but more my epilogue of my Let's Play of VLR. Yeah, and first I want to say that, well, apologies for the time it's taken to get this video out here. If you've not seen my update video a little while back, I said I was going to be changing my schedule up, and part of that was due to, well, it was due for a lot of reasons, but in any case, I think that was a good decision because I've been very busy, so that's why it's taken me a while to get this done. But I'm here now. I finally got some time to do it, and so we're going to be talking about VLR today. So if you're cool to stick around for that, feel free to listen in and maybe comment on your own thoughts about this whole game here. So, as you can see, we will be doing a little character tier list. I found one of these online. But before we do that, I'd like to talk about more of the game in general first. Give my thoughts on that. Maybe talk about some of my favorite moments, some of my least favorite moments, and just give a whole general assessment. I think I'll probably, add chapters on the video, so if you want to listen to a specific topic, you can just feel free to skip around to find it. So, yeah, let's start with the whole story. So, well, how do I want to start this? Well, I think I can start by reiterating some of what I said at the end of the last episode that I did. To take it as a whole, I think I enjoyed the first game, 999, more than VLR. And I talked about why. I wasn't a fan of the 3D art, and I also wasn't really a fan as to how this sort of felt just like half a story, really. Apparently, I think someone in the comments of the final video said that when 999 was made, it wasn't really made with the expectation that there was going to be sequels. So 999 ended up being its own self-contained story, and you can really feel it. And I think that's part of why I enjoyed it much more. All the different story threads were wrapped up, and there were some unanswered questions, but they weren't really. Like we saw Alice at the end, and that was kind of just a funny, the mummy and all that sort of stuff. And then this game comes around, and it goes back, and it takes Alice, it takes some of the cult imagery, it takes the actions of June and what's his name? Ace. I can't remember his actual name. And then it kind of reframes as like, there's actually there's much more going on here, and it's not like it ruins 999 or anything. It's just, I think I just preferred the way 999 ended. I don't think I needed more this sort of expanded universe stuff. But I don't want to get too hung up on the negatives. I think I did enjoy my time with it, mostly because, it's a visual novel murder game, and that's kind of what I like. Danganronpa is something I really enjoy, and there are other murder mysteries, and this was that. So I think I enjoyed most of my time with it. And I do want to mention, you know, what my favorite moment of the story was. And so I'd be curious to hear what all of your favorite story moments are. But mine in particular, you know, I was trying to think for a while, and honestly, it's from a moment fairly early on. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. I have the game up. Let's see if I can switch this around here. Let's see, is that on? Okay, that should be up. My favorite moment, I think, let's see, is this... It was over here, I believe. It's, yeah, the Cyan route. And this is the one where we choose to go with Alice. And it was the moment when, you know, first I decided to ally with her. And then I went back and said, okay, no sympathy whatsoever. Immediately, let's just betray her. Let her get her comeuppance. You know, her as a character had already sort of taken some form in my mind, and so I was thinking, nope, I'm not gonna be sympathetic for her anymore. Let's betray. And then the game just hits you with this switcheroo, and I was bamboozled. I was really taken aback, and that actually it got me pretty good. I was impressed, and it's like in the aftermath of that, it was like my mind had expanded, where it's like, okay, what's really going on here? What are the possibilities? What does this mean? And that really sort of that's when the game really grabbed me, I'd have to say. At least it was a pretty visceral moment, and I can't really think of, let's see, are there any endings in particular grabbed my attention as much? Well, I did kind of like the Luna ending too. I think I like that one as well. Of all the specific character endings, I'd say Luna's was the one that grabbed me the most. Still weird to me that Fi never really had a dedicated ending. But we'll get to that. There will be a part of this video where I sort of speculate a bit on what's coming up next. Yeah, so, well, speaking of these characters and their various endings, let's, well, no, I think there's something else I should talk about. Escape rooms. Most of them were pretty alright, I'd say. There were a few I can recall getting stuck on, and yeah, there were a few times where I had to just cut away, because I knew at that point I was just wasting your time. And I'll be honest, I think they were, I'm not sure if it was every time, but they were the ones where it was like the dice rolling ones, or ones similar to that, where essentially all I was doing was kind of just doing trial and error, where, you know, maybe there was a way to mathematically know how many times you had to go up or down, or do whichever you had to do for that particular thing. But I think this goes against me more than the game. I just didn't have the patience for that, so I did end up cutting away to just, you know, do it on my own time and not waste your time. So, again, whether that's a point against the game for that particular puzzle, or a point against me for not sitting down and properly solving it, that's, you know, it is what it is. But overall, I think most of the escape rooms went pretty well. I can recall stumbling on the very first one in the elevator. That didn't feel too good. But I'd say for the majority of them, I was able to solve them at a good pace. So I think that's all right. I'm sure the third game will have plenty of those sorts of things. Okay, now that I've talked about that, yeah, so I do want to hear from you guys, you know, what your favorite places or what your favorite story beats are, if you have that. Otherwise, well, maybe I could talk about some of the main story beats. Yeah, we had the whole Radical 6 thing. That was all right. The whole reveal where it was, you know, y'all have Radical 6. Yeah, that was, I get that, but the idea that everything was, what is it? I can't recall it now, but everything was slowed down by a sixth or something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but it was the reason why in Dio's ending and another ending, I can't remember which, but we didn't detect the gravity. We didn't, you know, because we were on the moon. I don't know, that felt kind of weird to me. I don't know. Let's see, what other big story beats were there? Oh, there was the whole reveal with, I could probably save that for, I could save that for character tier list, I think. Well, here's one thing I think I want to talk about. In this game, well, in 999, it was its own self-contained story, right? It was our characters, and they were trapped in a place, and, you know, they eventually escaped that place. And, you know, after they left, that was it. And the sort of wider world was kept pretty vague. In this game, however, we've got a lot more about the wider world and what's going on, and it's actually quite depressing, really. You know, global pandemic, apocalypse, annihilation generators exploding. Certainly, if you know, I suppose they're going for, I don't know. It's tragic, and it didn't make me feel good. So, in that instance, I suppose they're successful if that's what they're trying to do. But this, what I'm saying right now, it's more of a preference thing. You know, the apocalyptic stories, they don't. Well, I don't really enjoy reading them that much, and so. Disappointed's not the right word, but I was left feeling unsatisfied. You know, even with the idea that we're going back in time to, you know, we're going farther and farther back to create a new branch where the virus is never released, and you know, we have a grand old future ahead of us then. But then, you know, it was brought up in the story, I think. During the game's epilogue, Alice and Clover talked about it, where, well, that doesn't really, you know, even if we're able to create a new future, that doesn't necessarily affect this reality that we do know. So, you know, the people here are still stuck in this horrible condition, and they'll be left with that. And, you know, it leaves, it's a bit, is depressing too extreme a word? It's a downer. It's a downer ending for me. That's the thing. It's where we could think, oh, we could be hopeful for a new future, but this future will still be left behind. And yeah, they did try to smooth it over with, well, you know, Well, Alice did say that they were going to attempt to try and go back in time bodily at one point. I wonder if that'll come up again. Yeah. But yeah, that kind of sums up my thought on that. A bit of a downer ending for me, really. So I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about. Some of the twists regarding the characters I'm saving for when we're getting to the tier list, which I think I should probably go to now. Oh, I did see the comments. Some people were saying, which one was it? I think it might have been the Another Time. Yeah, people were telling me that in this extra Another Time thing, that this was due to me getting all the gold files. And so essentially people were saying it is non-canon. What happened here is not right. Which, originally I was going to have it part of my speculation about what was going on, but apparently I don't have to do that because it's just a weird, I don't know, just extra thing that is in this game that apparently won't be relevant next time. So I don't know what to think about that, but I do know it, so thanks for the people for telling me that. Let's go to our tier list. Here it is. Okay, so we're gonna start doing this now, and this will give me a chance to sort of talk about the characters and my thoughts on them and whether I like them or not. Usually when I do tier lists, these character tier lists, it's mostly my it's weird. I kind of do half my personal opinion on them and half how well I think they're written. So it might be a bit messy, but I still find it kind of fun. And as I said, it gives me a chance to talk about the characters. So, okay, first things first. Obviously, Lord Hoppington goes S tier. I'm pretty sure everyone agrees to that. That's not controversial, really. Best character, really. We, sacrificed himself for the team and gave us what we needed to step forward into the future. So, very good character, of course. Who do I want to actually start with? This is somewhat confusing because there's a lot of reveals that happen at the end kind of change the way I have to think about this. Man, this is hard. I don't know who to start with. How about Gollum? He was just a guy, really. He gave us a bit of information regarding golems and the robots, and that set us up for a lot of the discussion about robots. And then he was useful for his sight through the cameras in the security room, but really not much going on with him. So, but it's not like he was detrimental to the game. So I'll have him there. I don't know why Dio's on here twice. Maybe there's a reason for that, but I do not know it. Let's put Quark. You first. So Quark is a bit of an odd one for me. I kept thinking that there was going to be some sort of twist with him. I mean, there's pretty much a twist with most of the other characters, but it never really happened. It was he was pretty much just the faithful grandson who, you know, loves his grandpa, and he ends up being a victim most of the time due to the Radical Six. There was a part of the twist I thought was possible was this the evil Quark idea, which is brought about by Dio and his false accusations. And that's all it turned out to be, really. I'm not sure. I mean, here's the thing. Do we need every character to have a twist? Probably not. But it just left him kind of feeling meh to me. I mean, he served as a good motivation for Tenmyoji, but that was pretty much it. Definitely not... I don't think he was bad, but I didn't particularly care for him. So he's like between B and C for me, I think. I'll leave him at B for now, because I definitely think he was more important than Gollum. Let's talk about Zero the third. Or is it the second? I can't remember. Again, more substantial than a minor character like Gollum. I wasn't really troubled by Zero the Second's, what to call it, personality. You know, making the rabbit puns and all that sort of stuff. But I could definitely see some people would be annoyed by that. And the thing is, after a certain point of the game, Zero the Second just stops appearing. And so, really, you only get to see Zero the Second a little bit in the beginning of the game. And then you're going to be skipping a lot of their lines again, over and over again. So, definitely... And I mean... I was going to say serving as an antagonist, but... Like, there's another anthropomorphic animal antagonist in another popular death game visual novel, which I'm sure you can all know who I'm talking about, who is a much better, I feel, a much better sort of character there, you know, that serves as our opposition. And Zero the Second just kind of fell a bit flat to me, really. Like, I was never really intimidated. And then, as I said, the fact that they just stopped being a character for, you know, the last two thirds of the game. I don't know. Just felt a bit weird to have them. You know, you have this design and character, and then they just stop. So I don't know. Pretty meh for me. Of course, you know, the true antagonist ended up being the setting. You know, it's the nonary game and the various escape rooms and Radical Six and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, Zero the Second just became less and less important over time. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Alice. Let's talk about Alice. I've made my disappointment known many times throughout the game. How Alice turned out to just be an actual modern Egyptian woman who just so happened to dress like an ancient Egyptian priestess and happened to appear in the story where there was an ancient mummy that of an Egyptian priest. Yeah, you know, it's just I can't remember who I was talking to in the comments, but there was someone I was talking to about this, and I said I was just so ready to have a wacky sci-fi plot with just an ancient Egyptian mummy. I just wanted that to be a thing so bad, and it never happened. So of course I'm a bit biased against her. Plus, she was my kind of first betrayal. You know, I just wanted to ally with everyone, and that stung. That stung, having her betray me so quickly and so easily, and then insulting me about it. So that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth for quite a while regarding her. But I mean, otherwise, she was just kind of okay. Definitely not a favorite of mine. Yeah, she had her relationship with Clover, and so I guess I can be happy that she was there for her when she needed her. There for Clover when she needed her. And she had this vendetta, but that didn't really interest me too much. Well, now that we talked about Alice, we should probably talk about Clover. I'm definitely, just as how I'm biased against Alice, I'm kind of biased for Clover in that she's a character from 999, so I'm just automatically giving her some more points to that, but she's probably not a favorite of mine still. I honestly wish we could have seen her brother. I liked Snake quite a bit. Not a fan of her outfit, I gotta say. But I don't know, this whole secret agent thing. I mean, I get it. She's an Esper and thus a valuable asset to whichever secret organization she's going to be a part of. But I mean, I guess she does pull off the sort of more naive, younger agent to the more experienced Alice. So whereas Alice was very tight-lipped, Clover would give things away, and she was also pretty emotional and less disciplined, you could tell. Yeah, I mean, that's I don't think I have too much else to say. She and Alice, for that matter, got stuck in a pretty terrible situation, and you know, being put in those. What was the ultimate explanation for why they were here? It was because the history said they were there, something like that. That's gotta suck, you know, being kidnapped and forced to essentially time travel decades in the future because, oh well, the history said you'd be there. So, I mean, like, yeah, where is Snake now? I mean, surely he must have been horrified and devastated that his sister went missing. And she, you know, the other side of that coin, she's probably horrified that, you know, she hasn't seen her brother in decades. So she's sympathetic in that way, definitely. Okay. Who to talk to now? Or talk about now? How about Kay? Kay's a bit of an odd one. He's one of the first ones that we got some reveals at the end that made his character a bit more complicated, or a bit more complicated to talk about. For one thing, we found out that in one of the main routes here, it's not even him in the suit. It's June, which is I don't know if there was any way to predict that, but. And it's not like I've gone back and reevaluated that whole route and see if I could pick out any potential giveaways, but anyway, if we're just talking about Kay, I mean, it's another guy with amnesia. And his whole thing was he was the clone angle. If we had the robot angle, now we have the clone angle here. And I mean, it's a sci-fi sort of trope, right? And so it's, you know, it could be done it could be an interesting story or plot line. I guess it was done all right. The thing with amnesia is amnesia stories can be compelling because the idea is while they have amnesia, they can start to form a new identity. And then the scary thing is, if their amnesia starts to go away, will this newly made identity get essentially subsumed into the old personality, old identity? And so a person you thought was your friend could suddenly turn against you. And so we saw that, we didn't really see precisely that, but we saw something like that where in the routes where June is killed, and then Kay remembers it, he takes revenge. So it's not like he ever became our enemy, so to speak, but yeah, I mean, that's the amnesia can be interesting stories, and so I think they did fairly well with that one. And of course, the amnesia was all part of the plan too. So, but I'll put him in A because of the style points. I kind of like the design of his armor, and I liked his sort of rational takes on everything. But he was still, well, it's interesting because there were times where he was out for his own survival, but he was hesitant to put other lives at risk. And so he did betray us a few times, which stung, but I did appreciate the times where it seemed like he, you know, just instinctually wanted to put others, or thought of others first. But yes, when the opportunity presented itself, he would try to escape, which is understandable if you have amnesia and are in a crazy situation like we were. Obviously, Dio is in the Dio tier. He's in Dio tier. I don't think anyone's gonna argue against that. And now that I think about it, I guess in terms of antagonist, more than the Nonary game, or more than Zero the Second, or Zero Senior for that matter, Dio was pretty much our main antagonist throughout the whole game. And there were times where he was just kind of cartoonishly evil. I don't know. He's here as a joke right now. But there were moments where he was kind of funny, kind of charming. He had some quips, you know. He could dish it out as hard as he could dish it out as well as he could take it at times. And so he could joke around, and I mean, he's charismatic, is what I'm getting at here. But whenever the mask falls off and the facade goes down and you know his evil is revealed, he just becomes, I don't know. Well, he's a fanatic, right? Although we do know he's a flawed fanatic because he has his vices. But yeah, whenever he starts doing the weird prayer stuff, you know, it's just not. I don't know. I don't really like that. I I wished in the beginning I was hoping for. I think I said this. I was hoping for something like what is it? Bounty hunter with a heart of gold or something like that. That kind of character, and that just wasn't what we got. But you know, I mean, that's not what they were going for. So, and obviously he was big into the clone stuff. I don't know, realistically, he should probably be like around here. But I'm gonna put him in Dio tier because that's where he belongs. I'll put second Dio there too. Now we're getting to the complicated stuff. Let's start with Luna. I really liked Luna. I'll just say that. You know, robotic nature notwithstanding, I went into this sort of voting AB game with the desire to always ally. And, you know, she was the one who reciprocated, so that gave me a lot of bonus points early on regarding her. And although it was, I'm not sure if it was ever confirmed if she was the original caretaker of Kay, I kind of like to imagine that she was, and so that gave me a lot of sympathy points. And then there's the idea of her being a robot and her going out of her way to trying to do her best to, you know, save people, even though she may not have done that the best. She still tried to do it. And that whole, again, one of my favorite endings was the Luna ending. That whole thing was pretty, her ending got me pretty good, I think. So, definitely one of my favorite characters of VLR. Phi's a tough one, man. On the one hand, I liked her because she was, you know, smart as a whip. She was capable, and she could be supportive if you proved yourself to her. But on the other hand, she could sometimes be very condescending and pretty, well, not very nice. And she would constantly do this thing where, what was it? Oh, you should totally do. There's this completely obvious course of action that I'm going to explain to you. And then Sigma would say, okay, so we're going to do that. And then she would say, oh, well, I didn't tell you to do that. I'm just saying. You know, little things that are, I guess maybe that's a quirk of her character, I guess. But I enjoyed having her around most of the time. And, you know, she was kind of our original partner, so I would always kind of, it felt familiar being with her. I have a big problem with Phi, though, in that we never got any resolution or background of who she was or what her character was. The Phi ending wasn't really a Phi ending, and that's part of the way this sort of incomplete, the way that it's what bothers me, that this is kind of feeling like an incomplete story. Is that we never got resolution on who Phi was. And so that was definitely a pretty big disappointment for me. I will have some words at the end regarding speculation on the last game, and there will be something to be said about her, but yeah. So she's between S and A. I wish there was more done with her, I guess. Because, I mean, she was essentially our closest partner, and she was the one we were looping with, really. or not looping. Looping's not the right way to say it, but jumping with. And yet we didn't get a reason as to why or how or with her. I don't know. I'm just disappointed. But well, I'll say this. I'm banking on potentially more happening with her in the future, so I'll leave her an S. Tenmyoji, I'll put here. I'm not sure I'm happy with the reveal of him being Junpei. I can recall resisting it during the times where they were suggesting that sort of thing. I don't know. I recall looking at Junpei's artwork the other day, and then looking at his artwork and thinking, wow. Like, I wasn't even thinking anything specific. It was quite the comparison. And I mean, he seemed pretty intelligent throughout the whole thing. I don't know about what is the timeline? He went searching for Akane. That's Jun's name, Akane Kurashiki. He went searching for Akane, and then at some point, I guess he stopped looking and after he found Quark. And they were together for a few years. Until then, he got invited to see Akane, so he went to the moon. Although he didn't know that's where he was going. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just another thing where they're going back and taking, the characters from 999, and I just felt 999 was complete. So I kind of wish that this game was its own separate self-contained story. So I'm biased, I'm biased against them using Jun and Junpei like this, I guess. But we spent quite a bit of time with him, and I'd say there were times where he was pretty funny. It's just that, there were times where he went he could be pretty clever with his words too, like the times where he got some pretty good ones against Dio. Yeah. So he's generally all right, but I wouldn't say he's my favorite or anything. Okay. Speaking of, we got Jun, and yeah, I think she goes here for me. Yeah, man, I miss the Jun and Junpei from 999 more than these two. I mean, because 999 was all about saving her life, and yet, and that opened up the future, and so, her life was her own now, and she could do what she wanted. But in this one, it feels like she's, bound by this fate, and them enacting this plan to change it. It's just, I don't know. I really wish this stayed a self-contained story. I don't know. Maybe when I play the third game, that'll change my mind. Maybe it'll be great, and it'll really justify doing what they did in this game. She came off as harsh sometimes. And I don't know, she came across as a bit infatuated with Zero Senior. When, you know, I was kind of rooting for Jun and Junpei, and yet, although that was from Kei's background, and maybe that was more her talking about the plan rather than actually being infatuated with Zero Senior. I don't know. I just wish they got together and lived happily ever after, you know? That's all I want. Zero Senior. Not really much of a character, really. I mean, he set up this whole thing. We didn't really get to see much of him until the hologram, of course. And it turns out he's a super scientist who's out to save the world, and he has good intentions all the way down, and oh yeah, he's also Sigma. But I mean, he didn't really inspire any huge emotion in me, so I don't know what to say, really. Because it's hard to talk about him without talking about him. That's the thing. It's old Sigma versus young Sigma. Old Sigma's not terribly interesting. It's more the character we were playing as the whole time that's more interesting. So having said that, where in the world does Sigma go? Well, it's definitely A or S or A. It's hard because I mean, I voiced this. I was voicing the character the whole time, so it's kind of weird for me to try to think about him as a character. I mean, I did enjoy voicing him because there were moments where he like, you know, he wouldn't he would backtalk Phi or Dio or, you know, others. So he was kind of fun in that way. The whole twist with him being Zero, though. Why did he use the name Zero? Was that ever explained? Because Zero was Akane's name, or it's the persona she took. Why did he adopt it? Was that ever explained? I don't remember. Well, if it wasn't, maybe the third game will elaborate. Yeah, okay. I'll put him in S. I think I enjoyed Sigma. I mean, the thing about when, you know, your perspective character is you can't have him be too smart, because, you know, you need the audience to be able to figure out the mystery. So he's not going to be he's not going to be the sharpest tool in the shed all the time. I don't know. I really wish there was more between Phi and Sigma. Maybe they didn't want to rehash something like with Jun and Junpei. Because, you know, they were obviously trying to... There was a connection between them the whole time. And maybe they didn't want to do something like that, but I don't know. I kind of wish there was something going on. I don't know. It's so weird. Now that I'm in the moment, I just can't really think of what to say about him. And the thing is, this isn't the last time we're going to see him, because he's going to be in the third game. Both of these two are going to be in the third game, right? At least I think she is. Yeah. Well, let's leave it at that. Let's not drag this on for too much longer. I think that's pretty good. You know, I feel like Alice can maybe be between A and B. Phi and Sigma could be between S and A, I guess. But that's probably pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll be curious to hear if you guys have any sort of objections to this or additions to your own. But I think that's pretty much it. And again, this is mostly just, you know, which characters interested me or which characters I liked the most, which ones I disliked the most. That sort of stuff. So, yeah. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's see, how long have I been recording? Oh, quite a while. Okay, this next section will probably be not too much longer. And I mean, it's not like I have much to say anyway. It's just sort of, well, for one thing, if you didn't see my update video, I'm going to be putting my Zero Escape series playthrough on hold. So, after I finish this other playthrough I'm playing, I'm going to be moving on to Steins Gate. And thus, the next game, which I believe is called Zero Time Dilemma, will be put on hold. I will wait till I finish Steins Gate before potentially returning to that. Hope you're not all too disappointed in that. But I do promise you, I will be returning and completing this series. Absolutely, I will. If you do watch my Steins Gate playthrough, I'll explain why why I've been wanting to play that. So, but speaking of Zero Time Dilemma, I'm just gonna give a bit of thoughts about it. I really hope they stick the landing here, because you know, this whole it's basically felt like this is a part 1, this game, and I guess that can be all right. It's just, I feel like if they really don't nail the second one, that's gonna make this one feel a lot worse. That's the thing. So we will get Sigma, but it's going to be Old Man Sigma back then, and presumably we're going to get Phi, and they're going to be going into the test facility for the spaceship that was going to go to Mars or something. And something happened in there, and at one point Sigma's going to lose his arms. And that's also where Radical 6 was, I think. I think at one point I speculated, I think Radical 6 might be some kind of weird dimensional disease or something. But I'm not sure. And I'm really hoping we get Phi's background. Because it feels like such a shame we didn't get it in VLR. I hope they go back to 2D art. I don't know if they are. I've not really looked at the screenshots or anything, but I hope they go back to that. Yeah, you know, if it's a more self-contained thing, But the issue is now that we have this wider world and Free the Soul organization and Espers and Annihilation Engines, like space colonization, can they go back to a smaller setting and have it still be satisfying? I don't know. One can hope, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I can hope that they get in that facility, they prevent Radical 6 from being released, all the people they meet inside there survive, and then they make a new future, and Junpei and Akane get together, and I don't know. It'd be weird if Sigma and Phi got together, because it would be old man Sigma inside young Sigma's body. So, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I have anything else I want to say. Overall, this was an alright game. It certainly wasn't... It's not my top 3 of VNs, I'll say that much. Not even maybe top 5. But it was alright. Definitely not a bad game. Just not as good as what came before. And I can only hope that they you know, the next game grabs me much better than this one did. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have your own thoughts, you know, if any part of this sounded crazy and you want to call me out on that, feel free. We can have a little discussion in the comments. Otherwise, I'm glad to finally be finished with it. I've been The Worm. This has been my Let's Play of Zero Escape, A Virtue's Last Reward, and I hope to see you all for whatever comes next. Alrighty, have a good one.